Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Jams Tea Podcast where we spin the jams and spill the tea. And today we're coming at you with two brand new reviews for two brand new records. We're going to be talking about the latest album, the 11th album, in fact, from indie rock slash emo legends, Death Cab for Cutie. We're going to be talking about their new album, I Built You a Tower. And we're also going to be talking about the latest record from alternative R&B art pop sensation Kelela, her new album, New Avatar. But we're going to start off with Death Cab for Cutie. And Death Cab for Cutie are a band that we have discussed in the past because we covered their last record, which was Asphalt Meadows. And if you tuned into that, or if you didn't, just to give you a refresher, the tenor around that review was honestly like, damn, these guys really are back, huh? Because I think I even said in that very episode that the career arc of Death Cab for Cutie is kind of parallel to the creative arc of Modest Mouse, and that they have a very select, compact group of classic records from a very particular time. And then, like, their output just decreases steadily for like a decade, and during it, nobody really cares about what they make. And then they decide to come back. And notably, this does have a little bit more of a reason than Modest Mouse does, which kind of seems a little bit more nebulous if you look at just what happened with that particular band. But this one, it's different because I think that everybody can kind of agree that an essential part of this band from the beginning was founding member Chris Walla, who is an absolute indie rock production wonderkind, an amazing drummer who did some great work on this. Like, if you are somebody who loves those early Death Cab albums, you will know that those albums sound so much better than they like have any right to, like almost to the point where you're like, this sounds borderline like ahead of its time, almost like in a way that you don't often see music like this being. And then with the departure of Walla, some of those albums, they were just a bit dry. You just couldn't really feel the spark behind the band anymore. But once they got one Mr. John Congleton to come back and produce a record for them, aka the guy who produces like all the new Swans albums, yeah, everybody kind of like locked in to be like, what are they doing over here? And Asphalt Meadows was this very strange, very like abrasive and post-punky album that had all these jagged edges and like staticky instrumentals, and it was really textural, and it was great. It really, really felt like the band found their footing again. It felt like Ben Gibbard was at his like best as he's been like in at least 15 years as a songwriter, kind of bringing a more wizened perspective to that record, but also still very much being the band that you know and love with a new sound. So I did have good reason to be excited because I am a fan. I'm not as big of a fan as I should be, just because Plans and Transatlanticism have had me in a like a fucking death lock. I can't get away from those albums. I love them so much. I will get to things like We Have the Facts or the photo album eventually, but you know, it is what it is. But I had good reason to anticipate this album, I Built You a Tower, because it is another collaboration with the previous producer again, except this time we're not going as deep into a sonic pivot as we did last time. Instead, here we have something that I wouldn't say is a little bit more traditional for Death Cab. It's a little bit more polished than the last album, but there are still moments of very blocky, very heavy instrumentation that are on this that I think give it a nice little edge. And honestly, I have a load of good things to say about this record. I think that it's a very worthy follow-up to the last one and kind of continues them being in a really solid direction. So, Jen, I like this could so very easily be a band that you absolutely love, have never listened to before. Like I would not be surprised of any take you've got here. So what's going on? I gotta know here. Give me the skinny.
Ooh, I get to be a little bit of an enigma on this one.
Oh, oh.
Um,
I know that your wife is a massive fan just because we were talking about Ben Gibbard a little bit earlier last week.
so I know a handful of the Death Cab for Cutie songs. I love Black Sun. I heard that a lot on the radio when I was in high school.
Hmm?
Um, I like Soul Meets Body. I
Oh,
like the
yes.
I Will Follow You Into the Dark one. That's like one of my wife's favorite songs, so I think
That's
about that
I
all.
I literally posted on Instagram last week. I am the type of person who thinks that this is the most romantic song ever written, and also I am on SSRIs.
But the thing that really had me anticipating this album was that not only is my fiance Renee a huge Death Cab for Cutie fan, they're also a huge fan of Ben Gibbard's solo
Solo
work.
stuff. Yeah.
And Ben Gibbard's solo work is very interesting because I sat down and listened to some of it before listening to this and went back and listened to a little bit more afterwards. And this album airs a lot more closely to the stylistic flourishes that Ben Gibbard loves to pull for his solo stuff
Hmm.
that strangely he's kind of left out of any of the musical projects that he's been maybe better known for, either Death Cab for Cutie or what's the one, the Postal Service.
Yes.
You're gonna hear a different kind of Ben Gibbard on the Ben Gibbard solo stuff.
Hmm.
It's a lot more traditional. It's a lot more rustic. There are songs that are recorded on some of those albums that sound like tin cans,
He
and
did a
I love it.
collaboration album with Jay Farrar of formerly Wilco, if that gives you any indicator as to what was going on there. That's such a bizarre meeting of legends that I'm surprised people don't talk about it more.
And Ben Gibbard's lyricism in his solo work, I found, or at least I was thinking about as I was listening to it to get ready for this, I found a lot of new wave inclination to his lyricism on some of those solo albums.
Yeah.
And that part of Ben Gibbard to me makes him very interesting as an artist because he does have that same boyish, poetic charm that a lot of the big new wave vocalists had that they brought to their performances, but also to their lyricism. And so it's been really interesting listening to Ben Gibbard on this album, I Built You a Tower, get very melancholic
Oh yeah.
and very bitter.
Mm.
And for the music to attempt to kind of bridge the gap between the big swings that were happening on the previous record with more of the inclinations that Benjamin Gibbard has brought to his solo music. Because this album sounds more like that than any previous Death Cab album that I've given a listen to, which I think is an interesting choice of direction because it means that his vocals and his lyricism are at the forefront of these really sticky bits of instrumentation, really tight melodies with really interesting textures all over this album that allow for really compelling lyrical passages that are being blanketed by this very groovy but very thorny instrumentation. This album has a really interesting sense of tempo and dynamism to it that I've loved sitting with because the blankets of synths and fuzzy bass with these just really hard-hitting drums. I love the way that the drums sound on this album.
Oh, they're terrific. I love John Congleton. If he's gonna do one thing, it's mix that percussion to sound fucking excellent.
The drums and the tambourine on this are really, really good. But the thing that got me really interested in this album was when I got to the passage on the song Punching the Flowers. He had mildew on his soul from standing on the coastline, wishing it would swallow him whole, is
What a Ben Gibbard ass lyric.
the moment that made me understand Ben Gibbard as a writer was this one. I love these archaic metaphors and the way that he plays with syllables. The way that he writes poetry, he writes phrases that are fun to say and fun to
Oh
sing
yes.
that
Oh,
create an
absolutely.
interesting it creates an interesting sound that goes along with the music in a way that I can't help but go here in a way that Jaden Smith could never think to do.
Oh, boy howdy do I have lots to say about that. But
I'm just
no,
like,
you're
but
you're
I
right.
listened to both of these artists a lot this week, and that was a thing that I came to appreciate when being able to see what happens without it.
Oh yeah, stark contrast, stark contrast. I think that this album situates Ben Gibbard as kind of finally accepting his status as an emo elder statesman. Because you could kind of see shades of it on the last album, but it was really more just like it was set dressing, I guess you could technically say. It was something that informed the greater picture, but it wasn't really about that. I would say that I Built You a Tower is an album that I would say is broadly speaking about kind of aging with a wizened perspective, but also falling victim to the trappings and contradictions of your youth. In fact, contradictions very broadly is like the key lyrical theme of this entire album. Like every single song kind of folds in on itself lyrically at some point and trying to contradict itself. Like I Built You a Tower, for example, the first version of it, the A on the first part of the track list. You know, the metaphor here is I built you a tower. It is an act of devotion, of security for someone, but it is also enshrining them and making them a princess locked away in a castle. You are essentially distancing yourself from someone with an act of devotion. And that's kind of what's going on in the entire album is that it's Ben trying to reckon with the fact that he's older but still feels all of these youthful inclinations. Like on songs like Envy the Birds, like if there's one like direct lyrical theme on this album, it's that Ben Gibbard really, really wants you to lower your voice. He really, really doesn't
Ben
want
Gibbard
people to
wants
yell at him.
Ben Gibbard wants you to stop talking to him.
Yes, actually, he's got that one line on the song that's like, the scream is like is like a slamming door or something like that. And I was just like, ooh, that's a really fucking like he's still got that kind of weird sort of these weird analogies that just make complete sense to you that also nobody else would make. That's the kind of thing that I think Gibbard really like showed people when he came back with that last album is that he can still write songs that are as compelling as anything on those classic Death Cab albums because that's kind of what I go to this band for is that they are a unique combo of his particular writing style being done better than basically anybody else I can think of and also the fact that no emo band, again, really tries to sound like these guys. They are way more ambitious and way more like, I don't want to say radio ready, but like, again, you have a song like Soul Meets Body, and it's like no other band from a similar scene is going to make a song that sounds like that weird new agey jangle poppy thing that that song is, but it's great. So you have I Built You a Tower here, and it's like we're kind of leaning into some post-punky stuff on some songs here, like on songs like How Heavenly Estate, which is my favorite
Ooh.
song on here, which I think is just oh, it's classic. It's classic Death Cab. It is a song about embracing the mania of an anxiety attack. It is just about letting yourself go with the flow and completely letting yourself unhinge in the wake of everything around you. And it does this very, very smartly by having this moment where it's just absolutely crushing fucking slam of noise just breaks this track in half halfway through it. And it's like, again, this is such a distinct choice that I feel like no other emo band from a similar scene would make. Like they kind of remind me, I file them into the same place in my brain that I do The World is a Beautiful Place, I'm No Longer Afraid to Die, where it's like, yes, they are an emo band, but you're missing out on like 75% of their sound if you just describe them as that. And I was a little worried that by scaling back the sound of this album, it would take away some of the appeal that was on Asphalt Meadows. But honestly, no. I'm a big fan of just this more fundamental sound that's a little bit more about details and kind of puts the songwriting a little bit further into the forefront of this than Asphalt Meadows. It had good songwriting, but this to me feels like a more personal record. It feels like a record that is very much about Ben Gibbard working through his problems rather than a Death Cab for Cutie album. So honestly, yeah, like this, I feel like this will play well to people who specifically get along with his solo stuff.
I think the contradictions that you were talking about earlier make for such great song conceits. Like I loved the twist at the end of Pep Talk where the
Hmm.
song just collapses into this begging for this person to come back because the pep talks aren't working. The
Not
thing
doing
that
much.
he's been saying that he's been trying to do isn't working at all. And so the song just completely shifts towards the end and it leads perfectly into I Built You a Tower, which is such a great concept for this record, although I don't think I enjoy so much the decision to revisit the concept at the very end. Part of
Yeah, that
me
that that decision eludes me a bit too.
part of me wants to say that, it's doing something in line with some of the album's themes of emotional stagnation, but by phrasing it that way, am I giving it a little bit too much credit for doing something kind of half-baked?
Yeah, I had a similar thought, honestly. Like it's a bit of a back and forth choice. Like it's a good song, but it does feel like some of the sequencing choices on here do not fully make sense to me. Like I think that probably my least favorite moments on the album are like at the very beginning and the very end. Like Full of Stars is not a bad song by any means, but it is also a song that like if you are not familiar with how Ben Gibbard writes, I can see how this song would just read as absolutely fucking insufferable. Like, and that's the thing is that I do understand like the image of Death Cab for Cutie is so like the precocious male songwriter singing about loneliness. It's like it projects that image so staunchly. It's
It's
just the thing is that
it's
what
little
now?
Dylan O'Brien and New Girl.
It's funny you bring up New Girl. Hmm.
I did that on purpose.
Yeah, I know you did. But I can see how it would be put off just because the veneer of this band is very much, it's very much that the precocious male lonely songwriter writing about heartbreak. The thing is that just nobody really does it better than Ben Gibbard does, and that's kind of why he's held aloft and still like a beloved artist in this particular scene today. And I mean, it's not something that I feel like is unsuccessful on this first song here, but it is also like the knife's edge between being emotionally manipulative and like genuinely trying to expect some sort of like formal reciprocation for how you're being treated. Like, I like it in theory, but in practice, it feels like Ben Gibbard made himself too much of the bad guy on his own song. And I was like, I feel like you maybe needed to make this more gray so that I didn't really have that good of an idea as to the exact dynamic of the friction. But like, again, that's something that I do feel like is just kind of a matter of personal preference. The other moment on here that doesn't fully work for me is the flavor of metal, and it has nothing to do with the song itself or the performance. It's the fact that the production is just so busy on this. It's like the layering is just kind of like, whoa, I'm a bit fucking like it's a lot and it's dense and everything is woven together in a way that's a little bit blurry, I guess. And it's like
Yeah,
I like
the
when this has a lot more clarity in its instrumentation.
Yeah, the chorus on the song is a little offbeat. I love the start of the flavor of metal. That
Hmm.
first verse is or gorgeously macabre. Like
Hmm.
the idea of the taste of metal, such a rich, like sensory detail being used to evoke the idea that nothing in your life, even the most simple positive thing like unwrapping a piece of candy at Halloween, can
Hmm.
truly be seen in a good light because you're so strung out.
Yeah, basically. It's like perfect melodrama. And that's what I think Ben Gibbard does, is that he is an absolute fucking he has complete command of melodrama in a way that few people do. So that again, when he sings songs like this, they would fail in other people's hands. Like I have no doubt that it's just because of the way that these songs are written and executed, only somebody with his kind of acumen is going to be able to pull it off. And honestly, that's what this album succeeds at, is that it feels confident again. And Asphalt Meadows was also a confident record, but it also took a lot more risks. So to balance that out, I Built You a Tower is far more focused on being sharp, being refined. It's less than 40 minutes. It segues through itself quickly. It doesn't like, linger in any of its moments for too long. It is just a resoundingly solid effort that I feel like is not compromised, but simultaneously it's not too much. Like we're not trying to do too much on here to differentiate it from the previous album or previous albums in general. We're just focusing on the here and now, and frankly, that's kind of this album's biggest benefit. Like, there's even a moment on here, weirdly enough, where they kind of do get topical in a way that like completely fucking just on riptides, where Ben Gibbard is using metaphors like comparing himself to a border guard. And you're like, okay, hold on a minute. What are we doing here
That,
exactly?
yeah, that's an eyebrow raiser.
And you look at it, but it's just like the way he employs that device of just like he's comparing himself to a border guard that has seen too many people basically make it past him and doesn't care anymore. And I'm like, that is a sneakily brilliant kind of comparison that I like a lot here. I'm not totally sure if it holds like the weight that maybe it wants to, and it's not the only moment on the song that goes after something like that. Like he also does put himself in the shoes of a police officer, not in a like but like, more of an like a fundamentally unremarkable way. And I think it's an interesting moment. I just don't really know how I land on it holistically, if I'm perfectly honest.
It's 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 so loose of a metaphor and so loose
Mm-hmm.
of an analogy, which is really not what you're used to with
Mm-mm.
Ben Gibbard's lyricism. So a moment where it becomes unclear what exactly the emotional tenor of something that he's saying is supposed to be is peculiar, but I don't think it's not on purpose.
No, absolutely. It's definitely. I mean, like, what did I say when we started this review? Is that he's got sharp analogies that just immediately make sense to you. So this departure here,
I think he knows it's a little bit gauche and a little bit messy to say that.
yeah, there's wiggle room. And honestly, I would prefer him do this kind of trepidatious angle rather than like going into it, just because nobody needs to know what Ben Gibbard's opinions on these things are. Like, I'm not saying that he has like bad politics or anything. It's just that not a perspective that we need right now. So I think that understanding that is fine. That's fine. But all in all, though, I was very pleased with this. I do think that Asphalt Meadows is kind of a more holistic record, but this shows me that Death Cab's still got new places to go, just because, that could have been a fluke. That could have just been like, oh, hey, they're back and they got a new fancy producer. But no, I'm actually looking forward to seeing what they do, just because if you take advantage of the fact that you're an elder statesman and you really put that into your music, I value that a lot. I really, really, really like that because, I mean, it imparts very valuable wisdom onto your listeners. And that's not something you always get with emo music. Like, again, it's such a genre that's rooted in adolescent angst. And I just like seeing emo stars just kind of age like this because it's always fascinating because they always feel like they have to do something, but they never really seem to know what, just because a lot of the emo sphere is like, constantly in a state of arrested development. Like that's kind of what all emo music is about. So, it's good for the same reason that a lot of these late era acts coming back are good. And I'm just happy that they're here and happy they're making good music and not boring the shit out of people. Sorry, man, I couldn't get through Kintsugi. It was,
Oh,
but thumbs up.
thumbs up for this one.
Thumbs up for this one. Absolutely check this out. And now, boy, this is interesting. We've never talked about Kelela on the show, like formally. We had one mention in a Now episode in the past when her newest album, Raven, came out, and Riley tuned into that. Was not a big fan of it, really, and I will admit it was sort of their initial hesitancy that put me off listening to that and Kelela in general, just because I fucking run a music show on YouTube. I do not have the time to listen to everything. I'm like, Kelela is great. I love her now, but you just don't have all of the time in the world. Sorry. That being said, I visited her seminal release, Take Me Apart, in that same year. That is that is a 10 out of 10. That is a perfect album. That is one of my favorite albums
Woo.
ever. It is I mean, you listen to that record, it sounds like the fucking future right now. It has producers on it like Arca that are coming in and making these alternative R&B planet-sized fucking art pop songs that are just groovy and sensual and warm and alien, and nothing is like it. It is superb. And Kelela, after that, has been working with a lot of different people. We actually kind of offhandedly mentioned her because Kelsey Lou, who played the cello on that record, came out with a new album this year. And now we have this new record here. And in between Raven and this one, she actually produced a live album that was her kind of covering standards. And it was released very early on in 2025. And that was probably my album of the year for 3 months. Not even kidding. It's a superb set of covers. I listened to them very frequently. She's got a Johnny Mitchell cover on there. It's fucking incredible. But yeah, I really got into Kelela's music. Her EP Hallucinogen also is another fantastic release from her. But she's somebody who's constantly seeming to bounce back and forth throughout the vastness of her sound. Because, good golly, it's kind of more difficult to think of subgenres that don't fit into her than the ones that do. It's nuts. So, we have this new album here, and honestly, I got like a weird vibe from it immediately with the cover. Just because it was like this like weird photo negative kind of effect on it that I was just like, is this gonna be like a little darker or something? And to my shock, not really. This album is actually kind of like casual in its writing style in a way that I was very unprepared for. Like Kalela's writing beforehand was again, it was very impressionistic, very sensual, very just like tactile almost. You could feel those earlier albums. And this is a little bit rougher around the edges. The producer we are working with this time around is notably one of the people who was the engineers for Charlie XCX's Charlie album way back when. 2019 is way back when now. I want to die.
Oh,
Um,
stop it. I
but we have him who is working alongside as like the main producer of this. And it's like, that's a very interesting choice just because there is art pop in Kalela's sound to be sure, but like straight up pop music, that's a bit of a far cry, frankly. But that's not what we're doing on here. What we're doing on here is these instrumentations that are just they're kind of cluttered. They're kind of messy. They're kind of jagged and static and just strange altogether. And this album is very much about casualness in terms of relationships. It's about bouncing back from serious relationships into ones that are decidedly lower stakes and how your emotions still very much like control you when you are in a relationship that is lower stakes to the point where that designation doesn't really mean much because once you get in your feelings about somebody, oh well, not so casual now, is it? And that's kind of the record. And I won't lie, I'm a little bit back and forth on it. There are some moments on here that I think the production is just absolutely captivating on. And then there are other moments on here where, honestly, that complaint I had with that one Death Cab song on the previous review very much comes back in that the layering here is just so dense, and Kalela's voice is just a little bit too low in this mix sometimes, so she feels a bit suffocated. And I'm not saying that that's not an intentional choice, but I am saying that it does take away from some of the things that I do genuinely love about her. Like her vocal performances on here are good, they are confident, they're strong, but I miss the kind of crescendos and bellows that were on some of her earlier albums. And I know we're going for something lower key, but it really is just a matter of is this something you're going to get along with? If you liked Raven a lot, for instance, I think you might get along with this as the kind of, I guess, amnesiac to that album's Kid A, if you want to be like that about it. But in this case, I'm the basic bitch who still wants Radiohead to go back to making OK Computer, I guess.
So the interesting thing with this Kelela album is how, again, with the Death Cab for Cutie album, the this album has emo inclinations,
Yes, it does.
which I didn't expect going in at all. But right from the first track, Idea One,
Stellar.
you've got this eerie bass, this light melody before this big guitar comes in. This album is flirting with classic R&B, psychedelic rock, industrial garage type music,
Oh, yeah.
which is a really important component that leads to some of my favorite parts on this album. Um, but it has this consistent root in classic R&B songwriting
Hmm.
that I think helps a lot of this material come across consistently and deliver these really nice hooks and really nice thematic ideas. Like I love Point Blank, the little bit of a house intro that leads
Hmm.
into this really nice R&B swing. Like as much as this album can get kind of unkempt, there are moments in verses and choruses where it really streamlines itself, excuse me, gets really dancey, gets a really good swing to it that I think is really nice. But then it can also have these moments of big vocal powerhouse R&B showstopper moments. And those honestly don't hit as hard as when we're going for more of the crowd pleasing jams like Out of Time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because when we're more in the big showstopper vocal area that this album can get to, the production is just not as neat. It's not as
Yeah.
well organized, and some of the fuzzier, more unkempt elements of the mix stick out in a way that doesn't create very coherent contrast.
Beautifully put, beautifully said. There was something about it that was bugging me because it's like clearly the intention is to have this production style mimic the thematic core of the record. So why isn't it working for me? And I think that's probably it, that there is just kind of a haphazardness into some of these mixes. And like when you're Kelela, that's just really important. Like you go back and you listen to Take Me Apart, and again, you put in that, like, listen to the opening track on there, and it's like you are gazing into an infinite cosmos. Like it's amazing. This is more intimate, so I'm not expecting something like that. But again, I think what I miss is the clarity, not necessarily the scale, because I like the idea of kind of scaling things back and just sort of doing something a little bit more intimate. And there are moments on here where I think that works. For example, the Pink Pantherist collaboration, The Bridge, has convinced me that I probably should be listening to a lot more Pink Pantherist than I have been.
Wait, you don't know about Pink
Like
Pantheress?
nothing, like
Oh
almost
my
nothing,
God.
dude. It's yeah, exactly. And then I'm just like,
I
God, she
can't
has like
believe you.
five more albums than I thought she did. Holy fuck. But yeah, basically, I am committing myself to remedying that because of this song, because they are a match made in heaven on here. That's not necessarily the case for a song like New Life Forms, which I really like, and I even like the features' performance. I just kind of hate the features' lyrics because they just don't fit with this at all. Like,
I would
I
say it's very cutesy. I heard Professor Sky say the word pussy rap, and I'm not sure if that's been
hmm,
canonized or not.
huh.
So maybe
I'll
cut that out.
I'll
But
I'll put I'll put a pin in that,
come
but
back and come back and check and make sure that people are actually calling anything this. But if they are, this is that.
it is, and I think that it probably just would have been better suited to something that isn't this vibe. Like it's a bit immersion shattering just as it happens. Like again, it's not that I object to what this is. I object to what this is being here. It's very strange. And there is just some moments on the album that I kind of struggle to understand. Like Lincoln B, like I'm sorry, but this song just stops before it goes anywhere, and like everybody's losing their mind about it. I'm pretty sure it was a single, and I'm like, okay, don't get me wrong, this like set of drum fills is so fucking amazing.
Ooh.
It's phenomenal. Great instrumental hook, and it is a minute and 50 seconds of that instrumental hook, and then the song is over, and it's like, I feel like we were going somewhere and then we just stopped. And I'm like, I'm not really sure what this was meant to accomplish in the greater scope of the album. And that's the thing, is that there are still other moments, like Against Me is another moment where I just kind of feel like the production holds everything else back. But you have that, the stellar opening of Idea One, where you have this like really groovy psychedelic grunge guitar in the background. It's like the instrumental body of this song, and it sounds amazing. And then you have Point Blank right afterwards, which is a gorgeous song, absolutely fantastic. And I love the metaphor here of just like, you have to approach somebody point blank, and at that point, you are making yourself as vulnerable as they are to you point blank. Good stuff. Kelela is an incredible songwriter, and frankly, people do not give her enough credit. Going Down, also fantastic. And Out of Time is not exactly it's not out of place. It just maybe it's weirdly sequenced. I like the song, but I don't know if I like where it is, especially like right before you go into Against Me. And then you
Yeah.
have, I will admit, a really solid back-to-back hit of Crystallize and Retaliation Lullaby. Retaliation Lullaby is just one of the most gorgeous things I've heard all year long. Just absolutely wonderful. Crystallize, on the other hand, really kind of feels like the theme of the album crystallizes here, where Kelela is literally intoning that she wants to actualize their relationship. She wants to crystallize it. She wants to make it so that not even necessarily so that she can be in a relationship, but that she can feel it. She wants the benefits, but without the commitment, because commitment has ruined her so much in the past. Like Kelela is a very deeply personal and very confessional songwriter that's kind of lost in the fact that her sound is so like, whoa. But it's very true. She only makes albums when she has something to say and something to write about. And that's very much the case here. She's clearly struggling with just sort of like, not necessarily being single, but like, this is sort of an album that's about the complicated nature of the situationship, which, I mean, there's a lot of depth to mine there, is all I'm saying. And I'm back and forth on it. It's very odd. It's oddly sequenced. It's oddly put together. And I think that's the point. It's just kind of evading me.
I have a similar distance from this where there are many moments where I wish this album would go a little bit further,
Yes.
chew on a moment a little bit more. But too many times the album, and it's kind of exemplified on Lincoln B, ironically enough, the album gets to somewhere where it's about to do something really interesting and then cuts itself off at the pass
Hmm.
even though it's done a lot of interesting setup,
Yeah.
um, there's not a lot of punchline, which I think is curious in an album that has so many classic R&B inclinations to it.
Yeah. I agree. It's odd. And look, we're kind of oddballs here. People are really taking to this album, and honestly, it was kind of the same thing before with Raven, but really this just shows you that Kelela is evolving as an artist. Like I will, no matter what, because of Take Me Apart, I will follow this woman's career to the moon and back, because if she ever makes anything even remotely that good again, the world of music is better off for it. But even still, we're finding new layers to her. There is not many art pop musicians that I feel like command the kind of respect that Kelela has. Like it always feels like a music nerd event when she drops something. Like everybody I know will be like posting her songs on Instagram all of a sudden, and it's just like, all right, time to get in your sad girl feels. And you know what? I'm sure that this will do the job if that's the job that you need it to do. However, I am not as emotionally available as this album probably needs me to be in order to gel with it. So I like it, but I am at a distance with it. I recommend it, but at the same time, I wouldn't also go into this expecting something super vibrant and commanding and like, something that's going to leap out and grab your attention. This is something that's for mood, atmosphere, tone. It's low key. It's for, late nocturnal listening, not necessarily, just, need something to bump in your car. But I would like to see her work with potentially like a more suited producer. Like, I don't just want her to go back to work with Arca again because I mean, let's face it, I want fucking everybody to work with Arca. She does like yeah, my favorite fucking Björk album is the one that she produced. Of course, I want her to do that. That being said, like, it's good. I like it. I recommend it, but I want to like it more. That's the best byline I've got.
Yeah, I wish I liked it more, but I do like it.
Yeah, boring ass opinions.
I mean,
Look,
Apparently not, because it seems to be we're a little bit under the wave here.
bit of a
But
hot take, I guess. But I mean, still, I feel like the Kelela diehards, like, you don't need us to recommend this album. You've already listened to it. You know what is up. We just have to stand back by the wayside, us lowly peasants who do not understand. So, really, we lose if you think about it. And speaking of losing, if you'd like to support the show, please leave a comment below. Tell us what you're listening to. Give us a like. You can support us on the channel with our list of supporters for $1 a month. You can, I guess, get access to our wealth of content that exists for 2 videos, but more on the way. We promise. We're cooking. We swear.
you'll also get access to our Discord server where you can hang out with us and hear my wife talk about Ben Gibbard.
And look, it's a good way to spend your time. That's all I'm saying. So, as always, folks, rock over London, rock on Chicago, Visa, everywhere you want to be. Not really sure how that's like relevant or whatever, but like, sure, man. Okay.